My name is Helena Davison Webber and I'm a professional vocal coach. I work both freelance and with a large company called Vocaltutor. I really enjoy my job, meeting talented people, and amongst them is a young guy who I've been working with for the last year. I'd now like to introduce you to the fantastic Bryn Haswell. Over to you, Bryn.
Hi there, thanks very much for having me.
You're very welcome. I think this is going to be a very interesting interview. I've got several questions to ask Bryn, and no doubt I'm sure he's going to come up with some very interesting answers. The first one is, Bryn, what do you think it takes? What are the essential qualities that you have to become a successful all-round singer stroke entertainer, performer?
Okay. Obviously for recording in particular, a good voice is vital, absolutely vital. And in performances. For performances you have to have stage presence. Confidence is a huge factor, because if you're not confident in yourself then others won't believe in you. You also have to have good charisma,
Yes.
and stage presence, and correct breathing also helps.
Yes.
And vocal training is really important.
Yes. Absolutely. Talent on its own is alright, but it isn't enough. In this competitive industry now, it's essential. Things are not like they used to be. If yesterday singers could make it without training at all, it's not the case now. They've got to be well trained. And Bryn has had a fair amount of recognition in the time that he has been singing. But the next few questions I'm going to ask, I think that people will be interested to know. What do you think about breathing? How important is breathing and posture to a singer? And could you tell us a few things about both of them, Bryn, please?
Yeah, breathing is one of the proper building blocks of being a singer, and just having a good voice, because it improves things like, for example, your breathing improves your control. Your proper air distribution is how you hit notes properly.
Yes.
If you can breathe it well and correctly, it improves things like your bottom register, your higher register, your air distribution between your notes. Your posture is really important to actually get the correct breath from your diaphragm up to your lungs, in order to hit that big note at the end of the song. So correct posture and actually standing upright is really important.
Really good answers, Bryn. You've been quite explanatory on that. And another essential quality for singing is resonance. Some singers have a natural resonance and others tend to sound a little bit tinny. Could you expand and explain to people what good resonance is and how to get it?
Resonance is essentially hitting kind of a round note, so
Yes.
that it sounds like it's ringing and your air is spinning properly, in order to create the best sound that you can.
Yes. Would you say it's depth?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, depth is a good part of it as well, yeah.
To have a good chest voice and head voice is an essential quality. Untrained people tend to stick to the mid-range of the voice, which is much easier. Working with the bottom range and the high range is where all singers have problems. Crossing the bridges is what it's called. Training helps singers to do that and expand the range. Bryn, would you like to explain one or two things about crossing the bridges?
Essentially, crossing the bridges is all again about correct air distribution.
Yes, it is.
It's, if you are hitting a lower note, you need slightly more air, but not so much that it sounds heavy.
Good.
And you need to slightly lighten that air when you're trying to hit a high note, because you need less air when you're hitting a high note. And crossing the bridges is about getting the air to flow properly so that you can make that transition from a low note to a high note, where the air kind of travels up the back of your head as such and comes out for your head voice, and it's about doing that correctly.
Well done. You've heard the word seamless many times.
Yeah.
you've just described there how you can get a seamless sound, making them all come together. And do you think since you've been working that you've achieved that?
I'm certainly more confident in both my higher and lower register than I was when I started coming to lessons.
Yes.
And I'm also more aware of how I'm making that transition.
Yes. Well, it's very often to do with being aware of it. You've got to feel it as well. It's not just up here, you've got to actually feel it within your physical presence. You have to learn to recognise when the voice is uncomfortable. Basically, no push, pull, shove or discomfort, because if you experience those things in the voice, it means you're using your voice wrong. I'd like to ask you a little bit now about the Dartboard Theory, Bryn. It's a concept I invented about 4 years ago, and could you explain in what way the Dartboard Theories helped you in your training?
The Dartboard Theory is it's essentially a way of, for myself and other people who come to you, to recognise whether we are hitting a note properly or not, whether we've got the right pitch, and if we are on pitch, then we're essentially hitting the middle of the dartboard, so the bullseye.
Yes,
and it's about being confident in my ability to hit the bullseye again and again, whereas I know kind of if you have new singers, they might not be sure so much whether the note that they're hitting is the one that they should be.
Yes.
So they'd be kind of on the outer rings of the dartboard, and it's a way for singers like myself and obviously your other students to actually physically and visually see how well we've hit a note.
Well done, Bryn. Excellent answers. Really good. It is true that beginners, they very often sing off pitch, not going anywhere near, as you say, the bullseye, often hitting the outer rings. You can also get tuning problems. You hear the term used sometimes on the X Factor. This singer's got tuning problems, but they never really expound on it. Obviously there's not the time in the programme. Could you expound on what that means, Bryn, if it's possible, to explain in simple terms what tuning problems mean?
Tuning problems are essentially that you're not hitting the note that you think you are. So you're not as confident in hitting those high notes, and you're possibly slightly above or below the note in terms of your pitch. So you won't be spot on. And it's trying to eradicate those tuning problems so that you have the correct dynamics when you're hitting the note, and your pitch is spot on. And also your resonance as well is a part of actually getting that perfect note.
Absolutely brilliant answers and totally spot on, and that's explained in a very simple way. The Dartboard Theory is a very simple concept, and often the simplest concepts work easier. Even children can understand that. And now I would say for yourself, Bryn, tuning problems are becoming rarer and rarer. You now are getting better and better all the time at hitting the bullseye, and that's a good thing for you. It's connected with muscle memory as well, and awareness, as you said before, feeling it. Before we wind this up now, I would just like to say briefly that this was just a short video to explain things. There's lots more to learn about singing, but it's been fantastic to interview Bryn and to see him growing as a performer and doing so well with lots of views on YouTube, and also several appearances on different radio stations. And we just looking forward to more and more good things happening for Bryn. He's already got one show reel out and in the process of doing a second one, and I eagerly wait the results of that. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for interviewing me.
You're very welcome. Really enjoyed it.